Welcome to Into the Yes. I'm Marisa Faye, a functional nutritionist and holistic wellness practitioner.
And I'm Jen Nicol, a movement witch and intuitive Reiki master.
You are in the right place if you're ready to question society's wellness standards and prepared to be inspired to make changes that are right for you.
Join us as we get into the yes.
Let's go. All right, everyone, welcome to the podcast. I'm Marisa Faye, and I am joined by my dear friend, Jen Nicol. Say hi, Jen.
Hello. Hello, everyone.
And we're so excited to have you here. Today's topic is what we are now lovingly referring to as the H word.
The H word.
I know. I'm trying to think too, like what comes to mind even before, Jen, you hear me say the H word? What would have come to mind before we had like our millions of conversations about what this is that we're talking about today?
I would have been like, hell? Are we discussing
Right.
hell? Because I have a youngster that says things like the S word and the H word and things like that. He actually says that term. So
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know that I would have gone here first.
Sure. Yeah. And I'm thinking like, what would have been for me? I probably would have been like, what? Like, just, I have no idea. Right.
Human?
Right. Exactly. The human experience. Yeah. I'd probably go to that place for sure. Well, so without further ado, the H word we're talking about today is healthy.
Oh, that one gives you some kind of feel.
Right? You feel some kind of way when you hear that word. I don't care who you are, right? You're going to feel something when you hear that word because it has been taken in so many different directions by so many different people.
It really has. And
And
it's been used.
it has been used. I feel so bad for this H word.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Used for evil, used for good, right?
Yeah.
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 And so that kind of brings me to the idea of like what comes up. And I've been thinking about as we've been talking about sharing this, like what comes to mind when I hear the word healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, as somebody who's worked in the health world for a huge chunk of my career, I want to say like 3/4 of my career has been somewhere, somehow in the health world under the umbrella of health. You know, the first thing I think of when I hear the word healthy, I actually go negative first. I don't go positive.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I go to the place of thinking about, of not trusting. Like, it's kind of like who's using the word and how.
Yeah. Yep.
And I'm curious for you, like what comes up for you?
Well, for me, it depends on the context that it's being brought up in, depending on how I feel about it. But I feel like the word health and healthy has a deceitful feeling to it. And that's a learned response, I would say.
Yeah.
A learned response from my own reaction to things and from the way it's been used to sell or to, just sell.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or
Totally.
describe. Yeah.
I like what you said about it being a learned response.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of want to tease this apart a little bit by going in maybe a back door, which is, you know, in the purest way, in the most authentic and honest way, what do we think healthy actually means?
Without any learned response.
Right, exactly. Yeah, at its core, what does healthy actually mean?
I mean, for me, it means everything is balanced between my mind, my body, my spirit, my energy. All of those things are flowing in and out evenly and allowing me to feel joy, feel peace, feel those fundamental emotions that that are positive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's that whole feeling good, right? Like,
right. Just feeling good.
Which I think my mind too goes to the like like the words that come up for me are like mind, body, spirit, energy, right? That all of those things are being cared for.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think healthy is a destination. I think it is, not to use this word, which we're probably going to use all the freaking time. Healthy is a journey.
It is a journey. Well, it's cyclical too, right? And it's sporadic, for another fancy word, but
Yeah. Yeah.
you
Like
move in
it's
and out.
totally, it's ever changing. Right. And so I think that is one of the major things we get wrong about thinking about being healthy and our health is that it's a constant state. And it's something for me that I have to wake up every day and put effort and energy into, even as someone who works in the field of, holistic wellness and functional health. Like I still have to be very intentional and very focused on, these different aspects of who I am and caring for them.
It is an intentional thing, right? And, I love how you said that it's not an end goal.
Mhm.
It's always been in my mind, always. It's shifting now since meeting you and reflecting on things within my own life, but it's always been something I'm reaching for. But when I break it down to decide, like, is that thing I'm reaching for, is that my definition of health, or is that someone else's definition of health?
Mhm.
And then that's when I can come at it from a different angle.
Yeah, totally. And I used to do workplace wellness workshops. This is kind of how I started shifting my career from working for big organizations and universities into working for myself and getting into more of the nitty gritty details of really what it means to be healthy. But I started in this workplace wellness world where, I really had to sell to people who worked in these bigger organizations the idea that they really needed to impart to their teams how dynamic health is, and that also their organizations needed to get on board. And I remember one of my earliest workshops I did, the very starting point was this conversation about like what is health and what actually factors in. And I recall Dr. Mark Hyman, who does a lot of good work in this realm of recognizing complexities of health. Like any expert, I don't think he's the be all end all. I don't agree with everything he shares, but I think to go from, super, Western medicine complex that denies, these aspects of our health, like our mind and our spirit and the connection of all of them and our energy, that he's, somebody who's a step ahead of that, which is great in getting that message out. But he had a wheel of the 8 dimensions of health. And it was one of the first times I saw someone really call out specifically all of these aspects in your life of things that influence your health and your ability to be in a healthy place that probably many of us were never educated about. Our society, maybe even up until a few years ago, didn't really recognize, like all of these aspects that are important for your complete healthiness and well-being that we just don't touch on. And some of those that I think go under the radar are like sense of community,
Mm-hmm.
relationships, access, right? So we always want to be mindful in the conversations that we have here that like we are speaking from a place of a certain amount of privilege where our basic needs are cared for.
Right.
But there are all these aspects beyond just what I think most people think of when they hear the word healthy, which, let's be honest, they think about dieting. So they think about food, right?
Food. Mm-hmm.
Not food access, but the food on their
The
plate,
food.
right?
Yeah.
Or the food they're not eating, right? So the food is what they think about, and they think about the workouts.
Yep.
Those are the things that I think most people, and in my experience, like doing the work that we do, those are the things people think about. Well, am I eating the right things? And am I exercising?
Yep. And am I exercising the right way? I'm air quotes here,
Yes.
healthy way. It's interesting, right? Because this word, it's being used as an adjective.
Mm-hmm.
So it's being used to describe something else, a healthy food. It's a label now,
Mm-hmm.
rather than a noun, health. a way of being.
Or a verb, right?
Or a verb.
When
Yeah.
you said that, it reminded me of, so I'm a stan for John Mayer. I loved him when I was very young. I used to write for this like website that published reviews of albums. It's kind of a funny story how I got into this in the first place, but basically I was reading a magazine about this teenage boy who started a website that was like crushing it, and that Rolling Stone was noticing. And I was very into music then. And I reached out to him and said, I'll write for you for free. And he said, sure. And so they would send me CDs and I'd write these little reviews when I was like 12, 13 years old.
Oh,
Wild.
wow.
I know.
That's cool.
I know. I've had gusto
How
for a
cool are
long
you?
time. Thank you. Yes. So one of the things that I got was like John Mayer's like EP before he was anyone. You know what I mean? Like he was a young 20 something in someone's basement recording his music. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I love him because we go way, way back. I may or may not have thought there was a way I would meet him and marry him when I was like a teenager, like we all did, right?
Of course. Yeah. Yeah.
But
mine wasn't John Mayer, but keep going.
fair. But the point is, he has a song, Love is a Verb. And I love the sentiment of that saying, that song, and the idea that we have taken these words that actually are meant to imply action, right? Mm-hmm. And continued effort and attention. And we've put them in other places, not only in our vocabulary and the way we speak, but in our lives. Mm-hmm. And that actually it's about action. And it's about continued effort. And just like, love is that way, that it's something we have to show every day. We want to receive every day, right? We take steps to the people who matter to us to show them that, right? Same thing, I think, with being healthy and health.
Yep. I agree with you. And I think that you bring up the word love. And I think at the root of health and well-being is love, self-love, right? Because when you love something, when you love yourself, you do what makes it feel best.
Yes. And that kernel, I feel like mic drop, right? Because I think we have such an issue with self-love.
Major. And why? Because of the H word.
Right. I was just going to say why.
It's the H word. Mm-hmm. I mean, because of the way it's been labeled or used almost against us, used to define what's good and what's bad. This is good for you. This is bad for you. If you want it, or right or wrong, if you want to get healthy, you're doing it the wrong way. You have to do it this way. Like, these are the constant messages we're seeing. We're not seeing messages of like, act out of a place of care and love for yourself. That doesn't sell. That doesn't sell the new bar that contains all the things or doesn't contain some things or whatever it is, right?
Well, and also it's too much gradient. So something I want people to understand who are listening to this is like, there's psychology behind all of this and how we're marketed to and what sells. And what does not sell is saying, there's variability. There's gradient here. This is a really cool thing that works for some people, but it doesn't work for everyone. That doesn't sell, right?
Right. What
sells are absolutes. What sells are things that sound like a guarantee.
I was just going to say guarantees.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, something that I think you and I have both been trained in, in building our business is the idea that we're supposed to intentionally exclude people, right?
Right.
Intentionally speak so loudly and stand so strongly for one thing that only people who want to be part of that club are into it. And I know I have an issue with that because I think when it comes to health and being healthy, and those of us who work in this world, is we cannot deny that it's about so much more.
It's so true. It's an awareness, right? It's being aware that health is so much more than a number, a food, an exercise routine. It's so much more than that. And you know what? It's like, give ourselves credit for, like, because we're so much more. Like, we are worth so much more than just focusing on that one thing that you ate, or again, a number, or whatever else has been marketed towards you. Like, we are worth so much more than that. And we are complex beings with complex histories and emotions and all of this. So we deserve to treat our health as that amazingness that it is.
Well, and I was thinking too, when you said complex, I was thinking, yes. And one of the things that came to mind for me is this example that I sometimes give my clients who work with me for holistic nutrition or functional health, is that, we underestimate how much mental and emotional stress literally changes physiologically how our body responds to certain foods or certain stressors, like strong, really intense exercise. And what we see is that a lot of people, if they go on vacation, and let's say you go somewhere sunny in the middle of winter, right? And you live somewhere where winter's a real thing. It snows, it's dark, it's gloomy, it's yuck, right? When you go to that new climate where you're maybe sleeping a little bit more, you're maybe walking a little bit more and not doing crazy intense exercise, and you're outside in the sun more, that all of a sudden, foods that your body maybe showed you signs it didn't love back home, and all of a sudden, right, some of those highly palatable foods that have a lot of fat and sugar in it, like really good ice cream, right? Like those foods your body loves. Nothing changes, and kind of like, as far as regular poops and your sleep and your mood and all of that, you feel stable, you feel really, really good. Mm-hmm. And it's because you've lowered your stress. And just by changing your stress, then the activities that can be healthy for you in that environment can be totally different. Like all of a sudden you're eating, way more carbs, you're eating way more sugar, but actually your body is like, cool, love it.
It's managing it.
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, because you calmed down a little, so now I can do my job.
Exactly.
I just needed you to lay on a beach chair for a little while. You didn't listen. Finally, You did.
Oh, there we go.
Now I'll digest, and now exactly. I'll take care of it. Yeah.
So there you go. We'll just end the episode there and go on vacation. That's all we have to say.
Yeah. Get on a beach and eat your ice cream.
Yes, exactly. But that's just an example, right, of how complex health and feeling healthy and your body showing you signs that it's healthy. That's how complex it really is, that you can move one lever and it can be such a game changer. And that lever may not be, what you see showing up on Facebook when one of your friends is like, I'm on the keto diet and it's changed my life and I've lost 100 pounds, and trying to get everyone else to do it, It's so much more than that.
There's a lot more to it that I think learning about yourself and your own responses to things and picking up on those subtle cues. Again, that's a skill to be learned. It's not an easy one, but it comes from awareness. But learning that allows you to understand where some things might be coming from. Like, oh, well, I was aware that I had a tremendous amount of stress the last few days. Maybe that's why the ice cream or the whatever it was did not agree with me. Mm-hmm. It wasn't because I'm now allergic to that. It's because of a major life event, or work got busy, or whatever. So many different variables there, right?
And I would even say part of health is also experiencing episodes of your health being challenged. And I'm thinking specifically of, and Jen's nodding because she knows probably exactly what I'm going to say, because I've said this to you before, when I've not felt well. So anytime I'm under the weather, my immune system's being challenged, I feel like I'm getting a cold, I'm getting a virus going around, something's going on. The first thing I try to do is stop and say to myself, and hand on the heart, hand on the belly, and say, thank you, body, for learning new things and working hard to keep me healthier. Because those moments when there's an event that challenges your body, it truly is an opportunity for your body to learn something new so that in the future you can be more resilient. It can protect you better. That is literally how viruses work. Mm-hmm. And if we can show appreciation and gratitude in those moments where it might feel like you're less healthy, but actually it's health expressing itself. So if we can shift our vibe to appreciating and supporting ourselves in those moments, it's a game changer.
It is. And you know what? You've taught me that, because my default is like the immediate, what's wrong with me? What's wrong? What's going on? Why is this happening? That type of cycle of thoughts. And so you saying that and shifting that mindset, it becomes a more healthy experience now, because now I'm not feeling under the weather and then also mentally attacking myself and my body.
Yeah. And you're also going to make different choices from that place, right? Like if you can shift your mind into, say you get a stomach bug, and by the way, there's nothing I detest more than a stomach bug. But no, yeah. Right.
who here likes a stomach bug? Right. I don't see any shows of hands from all our millions of listeners.
I'm also thinking about you, Jen, with kiddos who probably brought home stomach bugs and they traveled through the whole house. And that is like, oh my God, I can't.
Anyone with kids can relate and knows exactly what that's like.
Yes.
But I'm always the lone survivor of that for some reason. Thank you to my body somehow. But it's not the easy. It's sometimes you're like, can I just be one of you and someone else cleaning all this up?
Totally.
But anyway, But
I think about a stomach bug like that, right? And I think about how a lot of people that I know, they'll get a stomach bug and immediately abandon every healthy support they have in their life. So they immediately abandon the idea of staying hydrated. They immediately abandon the idea of, not reaching for super processed things, right? And go get Coke at the store right away. They immediately abandon the idea of, getting sunlight, which sure, like maybe you have a stomach bug, you're not going to like go outside and do a workout. I'm not suggesting that, but actually, if you can even just sit outside and get some sun, that's really beneficial, So there are all these little things that can be part of your healthy routine, but then all of a sudden you get sick. And instead of being like, I want to care for myself more or better, which also could simply be, I'm going to rest, right? Mm-hmm. Instead of pushing through, which I see so many people do when they get some kind of virus that's not a stomach bug, right? Just push.
That's a big one.
But if we can honor and pause and think, what is the kind thing to do right now? What is the way that I can show my body back like, hey, thanks.
Mm-hmm. And that comes from that space, again, like what is the kind thing to do? We nurture and care for things we love. Mm-hmm. And it's easier to do that if you keep reminding yourself that that's how I'm approaching myself. Is to nurture and care for myself. So when I'm sick, what would I do? When I'm well, what would I do? When I'm,
What conditioning do you think you have or that we have, societally that creates that conflict? Because this comes back to the conflict between like healthy and self-love.
I know.
Where do you think that comes from?
I mean, can I use the word like microaggressors? There's like these microaggressors from day one that have just come in, and it's like little robots that planted their information. It's, I keep this little saying on my laptop. I'm releasing anything that I didn't consciously choose to learn. Mm. And it's all these little standards, ideas, ways of being that I didn't choose that. I didn't choose to think that a number on a scale equaled health. I'm choosing it. I'm choosing to not believe that anymore. But that just infiltrated, so like, is there any one thing? I think that the way that things are labeled, as healthy, good, bad, that sort of thing. That plays into that so that you're either good or you're bad. You're right or you're wrong. And we overemphasize being good and right so that when it's not, that we don't view ourselves in that loving way. We view ourselves, oh, I screwed up. I'm no longer worthy. I'm no longer lovable. I mean, and that's like putting it simplified, but if you really break down each and every little thing, that's what that underlying thought process is.
So I'm curious to have you, will you say that affirmation one more time? Because I love that. What's on the
I always have to
post-it?
look it up. Yeah. I'm releasing anything that I did not consciously choose to learn.
Oh, I love that.
Like the biggest, I always give examples of body weight and size because those are at the forefront. I feel like that's the easy billboard answer to this stuff. There's a lot more to it, but with that, like as a little child, size and weight meant nothing. I eventually learned that there was a specific size and a specific weight that was good, and then there was one that was not good. And then I created behaviors around that. So I choose to unlearn that, or I'm releasing that. And there's many, many thoughts around all of that stuff. But
Well, and that example really for me hits home because I think about then how much hate and self-hate is used to sell things that are allegedly healthy, which really are weight loss products, right? Let's be honest. Or products to help you control your body, right? And how much that is used against us, right? And that it's almost easier because of all those little subconscious ways that message has come in conscious ways, right? About body size. It's almost easier to think that you can take better care of your health if you hate yourself than if you love yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah, because then there's an answer to it.
Mm-hmm.
And you know from different marketing courses or just being in the game of having to market a little, and you brought this up earlier that you kind of want to single out who you're speaking to and let the others drop away. It kind of comes in from that. It's finding a pain point. So you're marketed to a pain point, which is something that you were told was your pain point. Pain point being you're not a size that the world has decided gets the front of the store or the mannequin in the window. Okay, there's your pain point. Well, we have an answer for it. Mm-hmm. And so it feeds like self-hate.
Right.
Self-loathing.
And it's so much easier for marketers to say, oh, you hate the size of your body? Here's the solution. Instead of saying, oh, you love your body and you want to care for yourself? Here's a way to help you do that more.
Right. Right.
But even in saying that, I don't know about you, the energy I felt, and even just saying those two things, saying the second thing, like I just eased into that.
Yeah. It felt expansive.
Feels good.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you say that again? That's an Oprah.
Right? An Oprah moment. Let me see if I can say it again. But it's like, oh, you want to keep taking care of yourself. You want to continue feeling good. You want to learn more about how you can take care of yourself. Here's something that can help you.
Right.
Right.
It's a health enhancer.
Yes, it's an additive, right? And this is something I think philosophically, especially in the nutrition world that I'm a part of, people always want to focus on what you're taking away and what you're taking out. And certainly there are some instances and sometimes where we need to, I like to think of diminish certain things, right? But then we also should be having more abundance in other areas, right? Mm-hmm. But people really want to focus on all the things you're removing instead of what could you be adding. And it's very tempting, right, to remove a bunch of things. I mean, this is like how the Whole30 became huge because it was like remove 50% of the things that are probably regularly a part of your plate. And that's the answer, right?
Right.
And instead, that creates more, I think, of that dieting cycle that can be really harmful. It can work for some people too, right? Everyone is different. And so I always want to acknowledge that. But instead of starting there, someone could instead say, you know what? I'm going to take out this one food that I'm pretty sure my body is telling me it doesn't like because my poops are weird and I get a headache sometimes and I get a little itchy after I eat it, right? So I have some clues that me personally, I don't do so great with that one food, right? So I'm going to remove that one food and I'm just going to add a 10-minute walk after breakfast every day. Small, right?
Small little things.
Small,
I'm a
simple.
huge fan of the additional. Like I would never give anyone nutrition advice, but I do know that fruits and vegetables are a good addition. So if people want to start to feel better, and you can back this up, I'm sure. Well, adding more vegetables, let's just say vegetables, is one way to definitely help that. So just add that. Don't take anything else away. Just see how you can add more in. That's a simplified non-nutritionist way.
Yeah.
For me, it's because it's positive. It's adding. It's not taking away. And I just think that mental flip makes a huge difference in the longevity of sticking to something that makes you feel better. It just, even thinking about giving yourself something more feels better than taking something away from yourself. And that mindful piece there has a big impact.
Yeah, totally. And I would say even with something like that, there's so much nuance, because if you're someone who adds vegetables and you start to notice your body responding in a way that it's showing it's having trouble with the vegetables, right? Then it's your job to reach out to get more knowledge or more support. Because in my world, where I work with a lot of women who have gut imbalances, sometimes adding more vegetables, especially raw vegetables, results in more bloating, more gas, more issues. But for a lot of people, it doesn't, right? So I think this is the part of it that I think is important too, that we've danced around, but we haven't touched on, which is personal responsibility. No one else is responsible for what's going on with your health except you. Right? And we really like to give our power over to other people. That I feel like is something that was ingrained in me as far as it relates to Western medicine. Oh, something's wrong, go to the doctor. And in many cases, doctors pacified me for many, many years and gaslit me that, that wasn't a thing. It wasn't a problem. I wasn't pooping every day. It wasn't really a problem that I was so lethargic. It wasn't a problem I was losing all my hair, right? Maybe try this prescription, right? Like try this diet. And by the way, try this diet was like a liquid diet. That's a story for another time. But yeah. So not try a whole foods diet and eating less processed foods, which is kind of generic advice that usually doesn't harm, right? But none of that, right? And so I was taught that I give my power to people in white coats. And that does us all a disservice. You are the cruise director of the ship that is your health. And you need to take that seriously. You need to be responsible, because when you're responsible, then you also, by the way, make choices from a different space.
It's so important that you bring up the giving the power over to others. We feel almost, or can tend to, the way that we've been taught to feel powerless against our bodies. Almost like, I don't even know what to do. So you go to the doctor and all our trust is in that they have the answer. Well, they said I have to do this now. And you're doing that. And then you still don't feel well. So it's an important thing to be able to look at yourself, know yourself, and keep looking further if you're not feeling well, right?
And I will also say, I'm not crapping on doctors. There's a time and place. We need them, right? But you also need to be more informed, and you need to feel like you can ask questions. And if you don't work with a provider in that space where you can ask questions and who's willing to admit that they might not have all the answers, time to find a new one. Yeah. Because your health is so dynamic. And again, this is really interesting because in some cultures and communities, the person they see like a doctor is actually the person who leads their religious organization. And that's the person they go to for everything. It's really interesting, right? And I think it's just the message of no one person, no one resource has all the answers to fix your health, to keep you healthy. That is how big and dynamic and expansive this is, which I think can be a little scary because it means there's a lot to learn and there's a lot to be mindful of and there's a lot to care about.
Yeah. But baby steps, right?
I was just going to say, yep, baby steps, which brings me to, because honestly, we could talk about this forever and ever, but we are committed to keeping our episodes not forever and ever, right? And so I want to know, that leads me to like, what's then your yes for today? With this conversation, what's your yes for our audience? What's your yes for ourselves? However you want to take that. What's your yes for today with this?
Yes for today. Yes to health as a verb. Yes to health as a verb. It's an action step. It's a way of being.
I love that. My yes for the day is for our listeners that if this feels overwhelming, or if you're currently in a space where you're feeling overwhelmed by doing things in the name of your health or making healthy choices, is stop, drop. Literally though, stop, drop some things, right? And choose one or two things that you can get really freaking stupidly good at. Stupidly consistent at, right? So not even saying perfection. Don't set the bar at, I'm going to do this every single day, all the time, right?
Yep.
Set the bar with some wiggle room, but pare things down. If you're feeling overwhelmed about what to focus on for your health, 1 to 2 things at a time. And what I like to tell people is you're making a cake. You're making a really freaking good cake, which is you feeling good. That cake,
the layers of you.
Yes. And that cake is worth the wait. That cake's going to take time, every layer to bake. Then you're going to put it on top. You're going to put some frosting between. That's going to take some time, right? So just one layer at a time. And each layer is 1 to 2 things. And once you feel like, you know what, I got that on lockdown, right? Then it's the next layer, right? Mm-hmm. But I'm not a big fan, unless you're working closely with someone and really being guided, I'm not a big fan of the kitchen sink and doing everything at once.
Everything at once.
Yep. Yeah. So today's yes for me and for our listeners is 1 to 2 things.
I like that. 1 to 2 things are easy.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm going to commit to one thing.
Ooh, okay. I like that. Yeah. Go for it.
I'm going to commit to a walk every day.
I love that one so much. And I notice a huge difference when I don't walk.
I do too. And the way I'm going to not make that too big is that walk can be 1 minute or 10 minutes. It all counts. This is what I always tell the people that come to my classes. It all counts. Just showing up here or just acknowledging that you wanted to show up here, that counts too. So 1 minute of walking counts, 20 minutes of walking counts. I'm just going to commit to walking.
I love that. And I feel like in teaching yoga, I had a similar philosophy of like, you got here, if you stay in child's pose for 60 minutes, you're doing exactly what you need, right? Same thing, right?
Yeah.
I love that. What's one thing I can commit to? I'm feeling a little, you know what it is for me? I've been getting more and more into using tapping or emotional freedom technique, which I'm sure we'll talk about at a later date. And this is something, right? This is something that can really change up, I find, my energy, my mood. It can help me release things. I'm committed to tapping at least 4 days a week.
Ooh.
And even if it's tapping for a minute, great. And if it's more, great. And what that really means is I'm just focused on releasing and giving intention to release. That's my commitment. One thing.
Love it.
Love it. All right. Well, where can our listeners find you, Jen, if they want to follow along and stay engaged after our conversation today?
Oh, yeah. I'm at Jen Nicol 09. That's on Instagram. So JenNicol09. That
Love
sounds
it.
like some like a license plate or something.
It does. It does.
You
Or
know, when
like,
you create it and you're still like a baby, and then I was a grown ass adult woman, but it sounds like a baby name. Whatever.
but the
It's
internet
my
was a baby.
Yeah, it wasn't. I was late to it. I have no excuses, but that's my Instagram handle. Or I have a website now.
Mm.
This is my first time sharing it out loud. And it is on the World Wide Web, www.theelementsexperience.com.
Love it. And you can find me at Marisa Faye Wellness on Instagram. It's Marisa with one S and then Faye. I have to tell you a story about this. I had to get a washer repaired in my home recently, and the appliance company spelled my name Morrissa.
Huh.
And I thought, who is this Marissa? So it's Marisa Faye Wellness, Marisa Faye.
There we
You can
go.
find me there on Instagram, and you can find me on the World Wide Web at marisafaye.com. We're just going to keep getting better and better at these outros and intros. Y'all just stay
I
tuned
think
for
so.
more.
We
Yeah,
get better at all of it.
we're going to crush it. So stay
Yeah.
tuned for more. We'd love it if you shared this episode with a friend or someone that you care about and love, if it resonated with you. And come back around to hear our next episode on Into the Yes.
Into the yes. All right.